Hello, YouTube. This is Hunter Surge and Mr. Braden Attanasio, one of my roommates. He came second place at the at PNM this last weekend. First at the yeah, it was last, yeah, it's
First
Monday
at the end
now.
of Swiss.
Yeah, it's Monday now. First at the end of Swiss. Using the Lunar Aggro list that our play group has been testing and refining. And he's going to give a deck profile.
Yeah, baby, let's go. Okay, so first things first. I probably want to address that. Like, it started as Lunar Aggro, and it kind of stayed Lunar Aggro, but then like as it shifted like down the way, it became like Lunar mid-range good stuff. Like,
I mean, it's still Lunar Aggro. It's still significantly faster than like normal mid-range decks are because of the amount of damage you can output.
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I would just argue that like the things that we're playing like to assist the Lunar package are just mid-range stuff. Like,
Yeah,
good mid-range.
of course.
Yeah. But without further ado, let's get into the deck profile. I'll get into my matchups after if you want me to do that.
No, that'll take too long.
Okay, cool. All right, so starting with the high end, like this was actually like the big boss of the deck was just Pharaohgeist. You stick any guy and then you activate Full Moon. You put him on board, and I won like 4 or 5 games by just doing that. Like there was no actual skill expression. I just went Full Moon guy, and they like one opponent did catch on that they could Gorgons the thing. But like it was Astrad,
Gorgons
so
plus
like
shield.
yeah.
Oh no. After, okay.
Yeah, so like Full Moon put 2 spirits onto the Astrabbit, and then they thought about like Gorgonsing it, and they were like, nah.
Yeah. I know there was like one instance in Swiss that you mentioned where after you got Pharaohgeist out, your opponent went Gorgons plus shield in the same chain.
Yeah, but they took all their life and damage.
Yeah,
like,
that cost just 8.
And then I just played Pharaohgeist 2 turns later. Anyway, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
But that was like the key like end board like option. Like once this came down, it basically ended the game every single time, literally. So moving on to the next thing, this was just like a good stuff card, and in this deck specifically, like has to be at 3. I don't think it can be any lower. It's just Specterus. It won a bunch of matchups for me in just like getting rid of stupid things like Galaxy, where I played against Water twice early, and they were both on Galaxy, which actually like mattered. Which we didn't suspect would be the case. Like we thought Galaxy might be a little bit less numbered right now.
Yeah.
But it turns out it wasn't. So Specterus was excellent.
A lot of the other Lunar stuff, like Nobby in particular, doesn't match up terribly well into Galaxy because you don't get to modify their actual attack stat.
Yeah, exactly. And then Specterus was also really, really cool into Kathmel, and it was also really, really cool into there's another guy that does Foamy.
Yeah.
So Specterus doing all those things was like really, really good. In the mirror, Specterus was really scary. So I see this card being played a lot more coming up in the premiere.
Yeah, because it's a 5 that can't get
nobbied. Exactly. And that, well, moving on to the men, the nobbies. Excellent card. I would argue like the poster child of the deck, to be honest.
Yeah, it's like the centerpiece of the deck, the thing that gives it its real power.
Yeah. Also, like Doppelganger is the best end board, like the best easy end board for the deck. He's hard to out. He does everything for you. Well, I'm just gonna show the Doppelganger this one because
it's Hydrake on crack.
Yeah, he is just Hydrake on crack, and he actually like nerfs basically every other deck. My only rough time where he was kind of like not playable was in the Drake Array matchup, and even still, like the rest of this deck doesn't really care about the Drake Array matchup. He was just like a good option. Also, he's just a nice beat stick against the Drake Array deck, so it was totally fine. There's not really too much to be said. I would make the argument that initially a lot of people were calling this like a Void, like Lunar Aggro. I would make the argument that's more Doppelganger Lunar Aggro because he is actually the end board monster.
Well, the reason that people were labeling it with like a Void was that basically every Lunar deck is going to be playing the Nobby Doppelganger package.
Yeah.
The like a Void part is what distinguishes it as an aggro deck because you are on the Full Moon stuff.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. All right, well, moving on to, the best starter. So I'll get into the starter math a little bit later, but like Werepup is the best starter in the deck because Werepup just ends your opponent's turn with this guy. Also, there's this really
Power Blast.
Yeah, there's this really interesting interaction where you can actually open the Full Moon early after you summon something like Specterus or Nobby, something that's like an annoying threat.
Yeah.
And then normal cast the Werepup on the next turn after you set the Full Moon, And when they attempt to interact with the werepup, you can just chain the... Like, if they, like, PTA the werepup, for example, you can just activate the first full moon you set and go right into Like a Void and then still get a second full moon that you were supposed to get.
Oh, so, man, if you get to do that into, like, an open board state, you get to swing in with werepup first.
Yeah, it's the best. Oh, werepup is so good for that. He just does random damage. He just does one damage, and then you just turn him into a 4 damage guy. It's really, really good. Like a Void, standard practice for the deck is basically... like the focal point of the whole thing. Unaffected if you use Full Moon in the same turn, but you get to ascend to him from your deck with Werepup when you activate it while he's on board. Also, he does piercing damage, which never came up. My opponent almost always had the out for the piercing damage, but if I had seen if my Werepup had resolved in round, like, I think it was round 6 in the Drake Array matchup, if my Werepup resolved, that Like Void was going to kill him that turn. Just because the piercing damage would have gone over the Capmo and put him to exactly 0.
Yeah. One thing I also really like about Werepup opens, like, say going first, turn 1, you open with Werepup, search Full Moon, set it back down. It makes you look directly in your opponent's eyes and goes, if you have an Astrab in your hand that you want to play down turn 1, doing so will end your entire existence.
Yeah, you're taking 4. Just for free. And there's really no out. But yeah, that takes up the Lunar package for, like, the critters. Obviously, you know, this is, in my opinion, hittable. This card is way too good. Ass Rabbit was just like, if I didn't have he was a starter if I didn't have any good, like, turn 1 play. So, like, Nobby and Specteris aren't really good turn 1s. To be honest, I actually summoned Specteris turn 1 a bunch of times. But I would have rathered a million times have Werepup or Rabbit. Because they just felt like they were doing something more. They were actually contributing to my overall game plan, not just a guy that I had, like, my opponent had to out.
They're generating card advantage.
Exactly. They were literally just starters. Like, as cold open as starters could be, they are starters. So these 6 were, like, the literal best performers of the deck. But also, we played 2 Jolton. They function as, like, a pseudo-starter so that you can get Temple of the Moon, because Temple of the Moon makes literally this insane. Like, it makes all of this broken. Like, straight up, it gets Like a Void out of Cryoblast. It makes Doppelgator, like, massive, and he's just minusing all their stats, so he can actually, like, clear big guys like Blizz. It's not immediate that he can clear Blizz, but, like, you can attempt to get there.
The card combination you need to clear Blizz with Doppelgator is Doppelgator plus Temple, and the third card is either Zeus or Full Moon.
Exactly.
If you have that combination of 3, you can clear Blizz Strix while clearing another thing on their board at the same time, and, like, the Doppelgator is now so big in debuffing all their guys that none of the 2 costs are going to be able to clear it.
Exactly. But, like, that, it creates a situation where there's a combination of cards that can clear Blizzrix by just beating over it.
Yeah.
And it not being in defense.
Never ran into the Blizzrix matchup, though.
I never fought Blizzrix.
Completely dodged
I just never fought it. But also, like, to compliment the Jolton and the Ass Rabbit in terms of just having, like, lightning good stuff. Elachik, Search of Zeus. We were opting for 2 Zeus here. I'm not entirely sure that the 2 Zeus was correct, but that's, like, what more testing's for, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure what my other slot would be for that. I was thinking about playing the 10th starter, because I consider, like, 3, 3, and 3 as starters. I was considering playing the 10th starter to get my guy math up to, like, 16, because it did come up in the finals where I just didn't see a guy.
Yeah.
And that killed me. So that's something I want to revisit, but this was all super standard stuff. The Lunar package was explained pretty thoroughly.
How much did you run into the mirror over the course of the tournament?
Not even once.
Okay. That would explain part of why Zeus didn't feel quite as impactful, because, like, one of the big things it's in there for is that in the mirror, Nobby is still able to do its thing.
Yeah. And that's, like, that's obviously going to see, like, more people are going to see this deck and maybe think about playing this deck. So I would be really ready for that.
And I guess the new element, like, it's going to be popular regardless.
Exactly. So naturally moving forward, that the only change I would make is I would cut, like, currently in this point of the deck profile, I would cut 1 Zeus for 1 more guy to play 16 guys, and it would be Ardbud specifically, because Ardbud searches half the package. The follow-up guys, basically. So moving on to, like, other things, Temple of the Moon. Obviously, you need it to make your Moon package bigger. Like, once again, you need it for, like, Avoid the Dodge thing.
And
Cryo
most
Blast.
importantly, so that full moon is actually a combat trick.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So then when they swing into you, with anything that's real, you just full moon, and then they just lose the battle.
Or I don't remember which top cut match it was in, but I remember at one point in the top cut, you had a full moon set. You cast out Jolton, got Temple of the Moon, played Temple of the Moon, swung Jolton into their Jolton, and then flipped up full moon.
I believe that was against. It might have been against Ari. I could be wrong. Basically, they asked me if I wanted to crash Joltons with them, and I said, no, I don't think I will. And then I swung my Jolton onto them, and they're like, oh, so you're crashing? And I'm like, Battle Step, full moon? And they're like, oh.
Actually, I think it was against Prime, the Thunder player.
It could have. Oh, okay, yeah, sorry. It would have been against Prime. My apologies. Yeah, that was an interaction that was really cool because full moon can attach to anything. It doesn't have to be a moon creature. So basically, like, it's just surprise damage.
Yeah, and if you do it, you can do it in Battle Step, and once you reach Battle Step, battles cannot no longer be canceled. And positions can no longer be changed. So like once you've reached that part of the battle, your opponent's ability to stop the attack from happening is completely cut off. They can still Gorgon Skaze the guy so that you can't enchant to it. To blank the full moon, but
joke's on everyone. They still burn for 2 anyway.
Yeah.
Smile. And then the 2 Zeus that we were talking about before. Obviously, you play 1 for the chick, and then like you usually hope to see 1 in general. And then we get onto like the super. Oh, also the mirror match is really important with the Zeus, and it helps for clearing things like Blizz. There was actually once where I used both Zeuses. I mean, it was a joke because the Pantera
it wasn't the correct play. You got in your own head and forgot Pantera was in defense and not attack. But
it's fine. We won that match. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. So if the Pantera was an attack, I would have needed both Zeuses, but it was in defense, so we were chilling.
Yeah.
And then obviously the Ambrosia lineup, I'm just going to put this one on top because it's just simply better. That's a frog. That's the guy. This was the spicy tech of the list that I honestly thought of like literally last minute, like on the last day. I was like, you know what? People are going to be playing Hurricane in the main board. But even more importantly than people playing the Hurricane in the main board is the people who are going to be terrified of Hurricane and only set 1 back row on turn 1. So we were playing 2 Thunderstorm because Thunderstorm does this cute little interaction where you can just activate it to pop their only back row, then summon Whip Up and set the full moon and have no out. Usually speaking. It came up twice in the tournament. Won me both games because Whip Up went off and Like a Void came down. They had no answer.
There were definitely several outs to that scenario to the list.
But like the reality is they didn't happen. That's just it. That's just what it is. Also, once the Like a Void sticks, if you have the temple up and you have another full moon, so if you opened full moon plus Wear Pup, your opponent's in for a terrible time. Like it's really bad.
I need to go through the lists and check, but I feel like a lot of people weren't on Cryoblast in main in this tournament.
No, they weren't.
Partially because like in late Daybreak, Cryoblast felt bad a lot of the time. And partially because people were expecting a lot of Blizz tricks, which Cryoblast does nothing into. Even if it wasn't for the immunity, those guys are too big for Cryoblast to do anything.
Exactly.
And that meant the scenarios in game 1 where you clearing their back row, going Rare Pup, set Full Moon. The main punish for that is Cryoblast the Wear Pup. But if basically no one's on Cryoblast in the main right now, then that wouldn't come up.
Oh wait, but also no, we outplay that temple.
Yeah. If we also have the temple, yeah, we're just better. But
yeah, well, we almost always do. But yeah, so basically, if you're in a position where you're like you have the Wear Pup, okay, let's call it crazy now. Let's say it's 3 cards. So now it's Temple, Wear Pup, and a Full Moon. The opponent's in for just a lot of damage. Like there's just not a whole lot you can do because the minute that they activate a counter rune in response to like avoid swinging, you just chain the Full Moon, they lose the game. They just instantly lose so much value because he becomes unaffected. Cool card, you know what I'm saying? And then obviously Laurels and Earthquake. Just the best removal options. We opted to not play the lunar package, the lunar phase package in the main deck. It was more of like a tech choice for the Blistrous matchup because it was more outs.
Like New Moon, the New Moon package requires you to be on more lunar phase than Full Moon. And Full Moon is really the only one that's just like independently good. You just want to be running that card. So like what we'll get into this in the sideboard, but we have more lunar phases in there that we side in for the matchups where new moon really matters. But in most like low to the ground decks, like what you have already plus the earthquake and the laurels is going to be enough to handle it. It's only when you're dealing with like a big guy turbo deck like Blitztrix that you really need to bring in the new moons so that you can deal with their guys efficiently.
Exactly. Okay, so obviously, like Resting and Earthquake are just super commonplace. So we'll get right into the counter runes. Obviously, Full Moon. This was the MVP, the GOAT.
Yeah.
This and Werepup were just absolutely nuts.
I know some people are only running 2, but like just drawing into the full moon naturally is so strong as a jump scare. So I really feel that 3 was correct here.
So not only is it a great jump scare, but in a perfect game state, you want to draw both of them. Like, you want to draw Werepup and Full Moon because it's just such an insulated extra turn.
Yeah.
That like, most of the time your opponent has to stop this guy if you're going second. But if you're not going second, your turn 2 and 3 are just insane. Like, basically unoutable. That was one of the strengths of Full Moon. The other strength of Full Moon was that you could just use it on anything. So a lot of the time, as I explained earlier, I would just put an Astrabbit in defense mode. He would get me a thing, like a Gorgons or something. I would set the Gorgons and the Full Moon. And then I would pass to my opponent. They would play their turn as if it's a defenseless, or sorry, it's like a defense mode rabbit that you're not clearing, right? Because his defense is so strong. And they would just do another setup turn. And I would go, oh, okay, end step, Full Moon, give it all to rabbit. And they would go, oh, okay. And then I would go, draw for turn, Pharaohgeist. Because he's got 3 spirits on him. And that was enough to jump scare everyone with Pharaohgeist. That was just strictly the best reason for, like, aside from the fact that it was like a good combo thing, that was one of the best implications of that card, is that it's a jump scare in combat and it's just a random Pharaohgeist at any given moment. So, and it's from any creature at all. Anything at all can turn into Pharaohgeist out of nowhere. So, like, the power of this card is so high. Like, it's just like kind of crazy that the acceleration of the deck went so wide that way. And then obviously 3 Gorgons, 3 PTA, and 2 Tsunami. There's been a lot of we've been talking a lot of experimenting with PTA because PTA is really good, but it does feel right now like the card might be a little bit weak because -2 just isn't enough. -2 is cool and all when it's against Rabbit in defense mode.
Yeah. And
-2 is real cool and all when you have a Gator on board already. But there are a lot of times where -2 is actually a huge joke. Like with the Morphrost deck. I could be speaking out of my butt here, but if we're against Morphrost and we use the PTA on Scorpio and they chain the Scorpio discarding the bat, and the bat revives a guy, that guy that they revived, I'm pretty sure doesn't have to be in defense, does it?
No, it doesn't.
So it can just swing over your guy.
Yeah.
Which is, wow, my PTA did so much work. They still cleared a guy for free. And we are out 2 spirits for that.
But it's not like Shield actually answers that scenario any better. It's the thing.
Because Scorpio would have just attacked.
Yeah.
Shield doesn't, but we're trying to figure out ways, or like a different counter rune, or something that you can play that's not PTA that like does a similar thing. However, what I will say is, although it takes a crap load of damage, you kind of need PTA for Blizz. Mm-hmm. If they stick to Blizz and you have no out, you're in so much trouble. Yeah. You're just in a bunch of trouble.
Like PTA not always stopping the combat was always a reality of the card that we've had to deal with for like that was the case through a lot of Daybreak too. Good players are going to try and put themselves in scenarios where even if you have the PTA, they're going to be able to accomplish something on that turn. But removal is removal. Stopping them from getting ahead of board is stopping them from getting ahead of board. And if sometimes it stops combat, that's even better.
Yeah. Tsunami is really weird because this was probably my second most sided out card in the whole tournament.
Yeah.
After Thunderstorm, because Thunderstorm just got sided out game 2. If I thought I was going second, I just sided Hurricane instead. Mm-hmm. Because obviously I want the chance to blow all my opponent's back row. If they think that I'm not on Hurricane, I'm just going to play into the Hurricane. Very, very Yu-Gi-Oh siding method. Tsunami though was weird because my first 2 matches were against water, so they came out out of the deck instantly, and was replaced by Spoiled Fruit instantly.
Yeah,
but Tsunami is kind of a necessary evil for this deck though, because as most of your deck is based around combat, you really need to have your guys stick for as long as possible, because you need to be able to make them continue threatening the opponent.
Yeah.
And all of them threaten the opponent. There is very little in this deck that doesn't threaten the opponent.
Also, again, while we managed to dodge it all day, Tsunami is crazy into Blizztrix. Like, Tsunami will allow you to dodge like 5-6 damage.
Yeah, and it's just going to end their turn. Which is really important because you need all the time in that matchup that you can get.
Yeah.
Especially like once you stuck Gator, once you've stuck Like a Void, once you have the Feral Geist on board. You don't want them to resume an open game state where that Blizz is free.
And a Blizztrix in defense is a lot easier to deal with, even for this deck that doesn't really have its modulation is mostly on the attack side and not the defense side, so it can have some trouble with defenders. Even for this deck, like, it's easier to get over a defense position Blizztrix than attack position 1.
Exactly. Now, that being said, that's basically everything for the main deck that I really needed to talk about. It was just a really standard list.
Well, hard to say standard at this point.
Okay, I guess so. There was thought that went into it, but not a ton. Like, it was tested a little bit. It felt good in testing. It felt very consistent, except for my last round matchup in the finals. I bricked. But everything felt pretty good. I had people commenting, like better players, people like Bean, Dimax, etc., commenting saying this deck was awesome, that it was really cool, and that they could see it being played. So, like, not to put words in their mouth, but I'm fairly certain I remember them saying that. So, that being said, it was just a nice pick. I really liked it, and it did well.
No surprise at all to hear Bean say that. He did make an entire video going, hey, here's all the crazy shit Full Moon can do.
Oh, true. Okay, cool. Cool. Very cool. Love Bean. More importantly, I love Bean Scorpio, best Morphrost player NA. Smile.
Wow.
Anyways, that's the main deck. Also, the main deck sleeves were matching the old mat there. That was very important. That was very important. That was the moon based thing, because it's Persona 3. Getting into this, I guess I'm going to do the side deck first.
No, spirits.
We do it
because that's part of the main duel list.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, well, it was a crispy...
Duelist, remember?
Right. It was a crispy 10 Owloon. To be honest, I don't think you can go less than this.
Yeah, you can't go any lower.
But I also don't think you need to go more.
Okay, I was actually curious about that, because I did feel that 10 might be a bit low with, like, full moon activations and such. But...
honestly?
But also you don't have, like, a divine rune that you need to fuel in this deck. So,
exactly.
Exactly.
As long as you see your play, like, a little bit further ahead, the Owloons never really came up. Like, I played the right number of Owloon. That's. I don't think this number can go down, but I don't think it has to go up. Like, this was perfect. Like, it did everything I wanted to do. This number was also perfect. 5 Zaptor is the correct number of this card when you're playing the lightning cards that we were playing.
Yeah.
Often, I'm summoning 2 lightning guys at most, and these are going into Zeus.
Yeah.
that is almost always what happens, unless it is 1 lightning guy, 1 thunderstorm, and a Zeus.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it had to work out every single time. I never ran into a situation where I didn't have enough of these to win the game. And if I did run into that situation, I was usually just holding Ambrosia, because my deck chews through my opponent's spirits much faster than I use mine. So I can go into a position where when the game gets, like, slow and, like, tighter, I can hold Ambrosia and then just slap it down when I need to have spirits for things. Like, I was paying my Terratluses, like, all day.
Yeah.
Like, I would just pay them for random
I'll
stuff.
often do the same. Like, if I don't see Earthquake early, I'll just go, like, okay, I'm going to pay off these Earths, and then I'm going to believe that if I see the Earthquake, I will see an Ambrosia by that time.
Yeah, and almost always it did work like that.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever ran into a situation where I saw Ambrosia, no Earthquake. I always saw Ambrosia... Sorry. Where I saw Earthquake, no Ambrosia. I always saw Ambrosia, no Earthquake. I think I resolved Earthquake once or twice the entire tournament. I resolved Laurels way more. But luckily, more lucky than all of that, I actually resolved my combo 1,000 times more than that, and that's all I needed to win. Like most of the time, I saw my Pharaohgeist like a lot, and he, I would argue, is better than the Earthquake and the Laurels.
Oh yeah,
I just had to hope
absolutely.
yeah, I just had to hope my opponent didn't see it, and 90% of the time they didn't. Like I said, there was the one person who had to out it with Shield Gorgons.
Yeah,
and they took 7 damage to do it.
Like
so,
even if you're outing it with Earthquake, you're still paying 3 for that. Like,
and now my opponent, who just expended two back row, is in a position where they put the Pharaohgeist back in my hand, and I'm just going, oh, rabbit, and they go, oh, I just paid 7 to get that Pharaohgeist off the board.
8.
What could you possibly? Or yeah, sorry, 8. What could you possibly look at? I look top 3. I take full moon. I set it, and then I pass. They don't clear the rabbit. I go full moon, put it under the rabbit. He goes no way, and I go Geist, and they go.
Also,
sick.
a nice thing with running this many Thunder, and this is part of the reason why I wanted to be on this much Thunder, based on my experience with running like light Thunder packages in other decks like Cryo Rhino, is that it is very, very nice is if you're in like a bad hand, but you have an Ash Rabbit and you're stalling out your opponent, to have the Thunders to be able to continue to re-enchant Ash Rabbit.
Yeah, that came up. Actually, it came up exactly once. I only re-enchanted Ash Rabbit exactly one time, but it was in a situation where me and my opponent were just not playing the game, and it came up so that I could take a PTA, and then they went up to. Oh my goodness, what did they? They went up to some kind of ascension that I can't remember the name of. It wasn't Griffuse and it wasn't Voltempest.
Do you remember what round it was?
No, I don't remember what number. I just know that me and them were both like stranded on Rabbit for a second.
Yeah.
And I had gone first. So I had my Rabbit stuck on there for a turn. They played their Rabbit and I played my Rabbit to get a thing. And then they might have gone into Arcolith actually.
Okay.
They went into Arcolith on the Rabbit, and I had just got Gorgons off Rabbit, so I could Gorgons their Rabbit, or sorry, their Arcolith. And then immediately after I Gorgons their Arcolith, I activate Full Moon and go into Paradise. And there's like, oh, this game's cool. So honestly, the Spirit math like felt very, very, very perfect. Teratless obviously for the Earthquake. Literally no other reason. I spent it all day long, and then I would just, like I said, I had just Ambrosia to get the Earthquake out. This was the hardest Spirit to use in the deck.
Yeah, if there's any Spirit, I would want to try and find room for a third of. It's definitely the Leviathan, because like we're always, every time we resolve like a Void, we're putting a water on it. Because we already have 3 Lunars on it from resolving the Full Moon.
And you might as well just play around the Tsunami for free.
And like there's a lot of funky stuff you can do with Full Moon involving dodging Tsunami, which is stuff like, oh, I cast out a Misenchanted Nobby with a water. I swing in. Battle Step. Full Moon. Trigger Nobby effect.
Also, okay, so I wanted the situation where like I didn't have to rely on Full Moon to dodge the Tsunami with the Like a Void.
Yeah.
Because obviously there's the instance where you like you go attack with Like a Void, they go Tsunami, and you just chain Full Moon, and now he's unaffected.
Yeah.
But like that is so much rarer than being able to just stick this under him and then like have that pressure. And it only punished me once when my opponent literally top deck Galaxy off the top and then slapped it down.
Also, I'm not sure if you ran into anyone using like a Joplin based water deck.
Yep.
But that's now another reason to really want to be putting waters on your guys so that Joplin can't switch them to defense.
Right. And it just so happened that in that Joplin matchup, after I actually killed their Schnark with Like a Void, the very next top deck was Galaxy, and they swung back over the Like a Void, which was actually like the worst thing ever.
But what if you had the Gorgon set?
I would have won, probably. And I mean, it didn't matter because I still won because Doppelganger.
Yeah.
But basically, yeah. And then one Luminate for the Pharaoh. We also spent this all day long as well, because it didn't matter. The Spirit math honestly felt great. The only one that was weird was Leviathan. But honestly, I'm in a position where I don't think we actually can bump it up ever. Yeah. Because everything else was so good that like it just kind of lives at 2.
The only way I can see putting in a third Leviathan is like dropping a Thunder is probably the best route for that.
Yeah.
We could probably get away with 4 Thunder, especially if it's, say, a build that isn't running the 2 Thunderstorm. Because I personally do not think that's super necessary. I think you can get away without Thunderstorms and run more guys in that place. And like if you were to do that, you can very easily go down to 4 Thunder and run a 3rd water.
Yeah, I think that's another fair thing. In the sideboard, we played a Wind Spirit. And I always took a Thunder one out for it because it was just the freest Spirit slot.
Yeah.
But anyway, getting into the sideboard, because the spirit math was pretty self-explanatory. News.
So yeah, this is our package for helping us send Blizztrix directly into the sun. So the concept,
Isn't it into the moon?
huh? No, send it into the sun.
But this is the moon.
We're sending it right from the moon.
Anyway, yeah.
So the part that makes this package work is this here. Which one is this? This is Waning Crescent. This is the pseudo ambrosia. The theory is that Blizztrix matches tend to be over so quickly that the difference between healing 2 off of ambrosia and healing 3 is not a big enough difference maker. So you run the pseudo ambrosia lunar phase, so that you have 9 lunar phase names to help turn New Moon online more likely. And then in addition to all the doppelganger lines to get over Blizztrix, you now also have, okay, cast Rare Pop Search New Moon, die Blizztrix.
Yeah. So that was like why I actually didn't side this in a single time.
Yeah, because you didn't run into Blizztrix.
Didn't fight Blizztrix.
I ran into all the Blizztrixes. I fought 3 mirrors.
Hell yeah.
There were like I went through all the decks earlier looking for all the Blizztrixes. There were like 5-6 Blizztrixes total in the whole event.
That's crazy. That stat is extremely low. On record, I think that stat should be like totally different. That stat should be way higher.
Yeah, it was still like the most represented deck in the tournament, but like.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was most represented on the pie chart that MPT put up with the stream. It was most represented was Blizztrix, and then around the same amount was Lunar Aggro.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, so I never sided this package in, although I think that it was necessary to play.
Yeah, it's very important to respect Blizztrix, especially since I think you can maybe get away without this if you have Divine Blessings. However, we only have 1 playset of Divine Blessings, and they were in my deck, so we will have all of our Divine Blessings in time for the premiere, fortunately. But only Moonrise was allowed to be proxied, so Adrian and Brayden both had to go without Divine Blessings.
Cry in Spanish. It was okay. I mean, I got to play my favorite card ever, Hurricane.
Yeah.
I hate back row.
Yeah.
Back row sucks.
It was very funny. It was so funny to me when in the stream MBT commented about like going, "Oh, Hurricane sucks," when commenting over Brayden versus BeanSoldier. Because Brayden is by far the biggest Hurricane believer in this household.
Hurricane is the best card ever printed. And they should print more cards that go to back row.
I'm pretty sure you would jam Hurricane in literally any deck ever.
Yeah, that's probable. Mostly because I'm a Win enthusiast and it's already like in the colors, but because Win plays all those colors too.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, no, this is the best card ever printed. This card gets rid of all the back row, which is all my problems. However, I do have to say this so that it's coming from me and not from Bean. In the game against Bean that I won, like the round that I won against Bean, I forgot to side this in. So I activated Hurricane and I didn't have a wind. So I just want to put it on record that I still won the match and I misenchanted Hurricane and then still played through all of that. So Bean,
if I recall
buddy.
correctly, MBT throughout the day was like watching a match each round, but wasn't streaming the Swiss rounds.
That's correct.
He might have been recording. I'm not sure. But in that moment, it is my understanding that after BeanSoldier went "oh," MBT unmuted and it also said "oh."
Yeah. Yes. Honestly, if MBT is watching this and has that recording, if they were recording, please upload that as like a Blu-ray or send it to us, because honestly, that was like peak cinema, and I don't think I'll ever get that back. And I did definitely ask BeanSoldier to just forget that ever happened, and he told me no, that will not happen.
So we must get ahead of it. BeanSoldier didn't mention it in his Morphrost deck profile, so
thank goodness. Probably forgot. He was probably more interested with the final game where I just bricked and died.
Yeah.
It was very unfortunate because once again, like 9 starters, impossible to break, but sure. 2 copies of Spoiled Fruit. This came up a bunch. I came up really hard against Water. It came up really hard against Draco Ray. Actually, it's what clinched me the game. He summoned a Drake Array, and I just spoiled fruited it, and that
Like,
was that.
there were like 3 different Drake Array decks that did pretty well. There were like 3 different 4/2 Drake Arrays.
Yeah.
Including I have to stroke my own ego here. MG1 came 9th, I believe, on a Drake Array list. And MG1's list is an evolution of an extremely early draft I put out in the Elestrals Discord of Drake Array.
Nice. We hate Drake Array out here.
But Drake Array is very unfortunate because like its performance here seems like it's strong enough as like a potential option to be viable. However, your opponent sides in spoiled fruit. They spoiled fruit your Drake Array and you lose the game. So you better be playing Hurricane if you're on a Drake Array deck.
Yep. That was another thing. They did not Hurricane me. So I went, oh, okay, cool. Spoiled fruit. Yeah. And they went, oh, I die.
Also, this is another case like Divine Blessing. We did not have enough spoiled fruits. We pulled 7 total from the 5 boxes we opened in this household. So 3 went to me, 2 went to Braden, 2 went to Adrian. So we did not have our full play sets for everyone in time for this event.
It worked out.
Well, we could have proxied that one. That one's Moonrise.
Yeah, I mean, I resolved it enough times. 2 was the number. I wouldn't play more than that.
Yeah.
Unless we see like a huge resurgence of like Water and Drake Array like just being good.
I mean, Water Reanimator has a good matchup into Blistrix, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a bunch of it. But also, I think it is fully possible that Water Reanimator finds ways to pivot away from being so heavy on heal stuff.
Also, if I'm being honest, being candid on record, I actually think that Water is a lot better than people are giving it credit for, and Water was actually scary.
Yeah.
Every time I fought it.
Yeah.
Because Water also dodges Navi.
Yeah, I think that's like strong. If I'm not playing, so like I'm a lover of graveyard recursion. So like the decks I'm going to be playing this format are probably just going to be Morphrost and Water Reanimator and nothing else.
That's fair. I would be lying if I said I'm still not considering playing Blistrix, but I might just rock it out with this because this deck felt very good. And it was my best run I've ever had. So.
Hey, I wouldn't mind you taking my updated Blistrix build for a test spin next premiere.
Fair. Maybe I'll see. 2 shield. Shield is really important. Number 1 against Blizz. Oh my god, this card's so important against Blizz. If they don't hit this, it's insane.
Yeah.
If they do hit this, well, you suck. That's just
and if they don't have Blizz out yet and they swing in with like Asprow or Morlith, it's like back to the hand.
Back to the hand it goes. That's a brick now.
Not so much on Morlith, but like on Asprow, that's really good.
Yeah. Also, like, if you just pay a spirit off of like a void for this, it's much less bad for you.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if they had Blister or something, they just could kill like a void, but like, you know.
Also, I am generally always of the philosophy that if you have Tsunami in your main, you should probably have like an equal number of generically applicable counter runes in your side so that you can take the Tsunamis for.
Yeah, speaking of that, 1 Tsunami to max out the ratio there for the Blistrix matchup because you need that card.
Or any other matchup where you're like, you're not dodging Tsunami.
Yeah.
I'm going to Tsunami you for your whole life savings.
Actually, that came up in the matchups where I was playing where they were just playing down Spectaruses over and over again.
Yeah.
We were just having a really bad time swinging at each other's Spectaruses for like 4 turns. And it was just swing, Tsunami, oh, darn. Swing, Tsunami, oh, okay, darn. Swing. It gets over. Okay, sick. Next turn, play Spectarus again. And like we were just doing that garbage for like 4 turns straight up. So that matchup was kind of cool. But that's why you play the third Tsunami. And then I opted for a second copy of Doppelgator. That's some pretty interesting. My goodness. There we go. There he is. So I opted for a second copy of Doppelgator because honestly, he is the boss of the deck.
Yeah.
In my opinion, he's the one who closes out all your games.
Mm-hmm.
However, it never came up.
Yeah.
I won more games on Like a Void than I won on Doppelgater, which is really weird because in testing it did not go that way.
Yeah. Would you say that like this probably becomes a third spoiled fruit?
It's possible that it becomes a third spoiled fruit. I honestly feel too worried about taking it out of the side. Like,
try the Corvus Gold talk.
But in the side deck?
No, in the main deck. More guys.
Yeah. Okay, so there's the Corvus Skull, there's the Ardbud, there's like...
Well, Ardbud doesn't get Doppelgators back in your deck.
That is true. But he's not a starter, he's just an extender. I want 10 starters. I don't want 10. I don't want extra extenders because they were already like kind of weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is like the toughest slot in the entire side deck, like because he's not good enough to be here, but he kind of is. Like he's kind of the whole deck. So like this will take testing. I'll probably update you in my next deck profile, which will hopefully be in 2 weeks. But and then yeah, that boy.
Licorice
That
for the hurricane.
That boy for the hurricane.
Yeah.
Don't forget to side the sin. Do not forget to side the sin. Unless you're against me. If you're against me, forget to side it in. Thanks. Appreciate you. Yeah, that's it. I feel like a lot of this was self-explanatory. Like the licorice for the hurricane. Second copy of Doppelganger. Like super simple stuff. A lot of this was to respect Blizz. Like a lot. Like
Because you
like
need
you
need to respect Blizz.
all of this is to respect Blizz. This was just good stuff.
Well, this is also like for like general purposes as well, kind of like.
But we know it isn't it. It was in there just to respect Blizz.
It's there to respect Blizz, but it's there to respect like general good sideboarding practices for being able to adapt your counter rune lineup. Like.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I won't misinform the public, I guess. It's for Blizz. Okay. But yeah, that's my deck profile on Lunar. Honestly, big shout outs to Joel because Joel actually like made the list and like I just got past it and he was like, test this, and I was like, sick.
I'm Baku.
We just top with the list that Joel makes us mostly. So honestly, like I said, I wouldn't change a whole lot of this, especially going into the premiere, because now if you go into the premiere expecting that you're going to play against this, the things like Zeus are going to help you a lot because that was the original Inception anyway.
Yeah.
If I change to Ardbud and pay for it by not topping, well, that's my problem. But yeah, no, this was an awesome list. Shoutouts to Joel, shoutouts to Adrian, shoutouts to Bean and Dimax for being great opponents. Shoutouts to Ari. I really need to talk to them about building Wind because Wind's best deck. Yeah,